is the distance formula and the midpoint formula. Now, these two concepts you guys have done for a long time. Okay, it's not anything new for you guys. You guys have seen these before. That part of it's not going to be any different. Okay, it's still the same thing. The way that you might not have thought about the distance formula, though, is it's derived from the Pythagorean theorem. That's all the distance formula is. If you plot the two ordered pairs that they're going to give you, and then you found the distance between or made a triangle out of it, you would actually could use the Pythagorean theorem if you'd like, or using the distance formula the way it's intended. The distance formula looks like this. The distance equals the square root of the second x minus the first x squared plus the second y minus the first y squared. Now, when you do this, and this has been the biggest problem that I've seen out of students over the years, if at any time when you subtract the two numbers inside the parentheses there, when after I square it, will you ever get a negative answer?
No.
No, and you shouldn't. However, every time I still get a handful of people, and as a class size this size, I'd probably get about 5 or 6 of you, at least one time would do that, where if you got like a -5 and you asked to square it, you'd tell me it was -25. The problem with it is because you become too calculator dependent when it comes to that point. And you put it in as -5 squared as compared to parentheses -5 squared, which then the calculator gives you two different answers. So be very careful with that. At no time, right here or here, after you square those numbers, it should be a negative. No time. Okay? So, if I give you two ordered pairs, Fallon, give me an ordered pair. Jackie, give me another one. Okay, so there are my two ordered pairs. Now, again, you have options. If you like, one of the ways that some people have done this is that they've graphed these things. They went back -4 and up 3 and made a dot. Then they went over 2 and down 7 and made a dot. And then what you could do is the distance between there is that straight line right there. And what a lot of people do, or what they could do, is make a triangle out of that thing, and it ends up being the Pythagorean theorem. That's how it could be done. If you've never seen that before, now you have. If you want to do it that way, you're more than welcome to. Okay? So that you'd find this distance here, which would be 3 this way and 7 this way, so that'd be 10 total. Okay? We go 4 this way for here and 2 this way, so that'd be 6. And then I could take 10 squared plus 6 squared equals that squared, and then square root it, then I'm done. Pythagorean theorem. Do you want to take the time to draw them out? That's your choice. If you want to, you can. However, I don't want to take that time. So me personally, I like to end up just using the distance formula the way it was intended. And what's the second x? 2. Minus, what's the first x? -4. What happens when you have two negatives put together like that? It ends up being a positive. Good job. Alyssa, bless you, by the way. Then, as far as the wise guys go, what's the second y? -7 minus the first y, which is 3. And when I subtract those, or add them, whatever it happens to be, what is 2 plus 4? 6. And what's -7 minus 3? -10. Now, here's what ends up happening. A lot of times, and this is what I was getting at the beginning, 6 squared is what? 36. -10 squared is not -100, which is what a lot of people screw up. They accidentally just type it in that way without the parentheses. But what is -10 times -10? Positive 100. And then what's 36 plus 100? 136. Now, in your directions for this, bless you, it doesn't say round to the nearest whatever. Okay? It just says find the distance between the 2 points and then find the midpoint. It does not talk about us trying to come up with what the decimal equivalent to that thing would be. Do you guys remember how to break down square root? So my problem is the square root of 136. If I take 136 over here, remember how I did it? Does 2 go into 136?
Yes.
How many times? How much? 68. Does 2 go into 68? 34 times. Does 2 go into 34? 17 times. 17 is a prime number. I only get a pair of 2s that get to go outside the house. 2 goes outside the house. What number goes inside the house? 34. Because you'd end up multiplying the 2 and the 17 together. That would be the answer to Fallon and Jackie's problem. Okay? Are you guys okay with the distance formula? I don't want to take up too much of your time for this because I know you as juniors and seniors, you guys have had this in geometry. You guys had this in Algebra 1. You probably had it in your pre-algebra classes, right? More than likely? Okay, then the second part to this is going to be the midpoint formula. If I could spell formula. Now, one thing about this, and we've already dealt with the stats part in this particular concept, but what's it called when you add two numbers and divide by 2? You're finding the average. That is all you're doing. You're averaging the x's and you're averaging the y's. That is all the midpoint formula is trying to tell you to do. Okay? So that is it. That is all we have to do for this. So if I go back to Fallon's point, and Fallon's was -4, 3, right? And Jackie's was 2, -7. How do I find the midpoint? What's x1? -4. What's x2? 2. What's y1? 3 plus -7 divided by 2. On the first one, what's -4 plus 2? -2 divided by 2? -1. And what's 3 plus -7? -4 divided by 2? -2. Oh, ran out of room. That looks horrible. -1, -2. Okay? Are you guys okay with that? Now again, one thing about the midpoint formula, if I go back to that screen where I graphed those two, and if I plotted -1, -2, where should it be? -1, -2 is approximately right here. On my picture, and I know it's a homemade graph and it's makeshift or whatever, but does that look like it would appear to be, bless you, about halfway? Or close to it? Yeah, I would think so. So, I know that was quick, but I didn't want to waste a whole lot of time because you guys have done this before. Are you guys okay with that? Do you want me to do any more? No? Okay. So on that particular stuff, just so that you guys know what we're going up to, on page 617, we're going 4 through 20 evens, which, again, when you read the directions for that, it says find the distance between the 2 points, then find the midpoint between the 2 points. So how many answers will you have for each problem? 2. You'll have 2. You'll have a distance and you'll have a midpoint. Okay? Everybody okay with that? Good.